Hey guys, if you're watching this video, chances are you are thinking about buying or selling a business. You probably came across terms like asset sale, share sale, earnouts, seller financing, holdbacks, clawbacks, and you're wondering, what the heck do these actually mean? Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds, and I got you covered. Because choosing the right deal structure can literally be the difference between a clean exit or a messy nightmare. And let me tell you something that most business owners don't hear often. It is not just what the asking price is. It's about how the deal is structured determines what you actually take home and when you get paid. So in this video, I'm going to break down the main types of deal structure, like what they are, how they work, and which one might make the most sense for your situation. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Anish, and I'm an M&A strategist and a business owner. I have bought and sold companies myself, so I know exactly what's it like to be on both sides of the table. Currently, I help many business owners with their M&A strategy. And through this channel, I bring a practical, no BS advice to help everyday business owners build real wealth through business ownership. Now, let's get right into it. There are two popular ways that businesses are actually sold. One is a share sale, and second one is an asset sale. Let's start with the share sale first. In a share sale, the buyer purchases all the shares of the business. Shares are like ownership rights of a company. During a share sale, buyer gets everything in the business, like the asset, the brand, the customer base, policies, and even their liability, whether the seller discloses it or not. It's kind of like buying a house and getting everything inside that house with it, including all the plumbing problems or roofing problems that nobody told you about. So buyers have to do some thorough checks when it comes to share sale. By the way, the process of doing a thorough check is called due diligence. So due diligence is kind of like an inspection for a business. And now you may ask, why would someone sell this way? Because the seller gets the value of the business on its earning potential. When the business is valued on its future of its earning potential, it's usually sold altogether as a whole. For the seller, it usually is better from a tax perspective. Let me give you a quick example. Say Maria, who owns a boutique design agency. She's been running it for 10 years and her business has some recurring clients, signed contracts, and even a small team in place. If a buyer wants to take over the business and keep everything running, like the employees, clients, contract, in that case, a share sale makes more sense because it's a clean handover. Maria is just transferring the shares that she has, say 100% share, to the new buyer. Now let's talk about the second popular one, which is called the asset sale. This is where the buyer picks and chooses what they want. They might take the trucks, equipments, maybe a customer list, and pay something for the branding, but they leave behind the company name and the liabilities or any messy debts. For buyer, this is often a safer route. They get the good part of the business without taking the baggage. Asset sale can be much more straightforward, but you're dealing with transferring a lot of individual assets. So say if a company has 7 trucks, you're transferring all that 7 trucks into your name. So it can take some time. Asset sale is more common in business that is sold based on the asset that they have, not on the income potential. It could also be that the business might be in distress or does not have the right staff. Okay, I'll give you an example. Jake owns a moving company. He's looking to retire. A buyer is only interested in buying the equipment, like the fleet of trucks, maybe the phone, the website, and the brand. They don't want to buy the shares of the company because they don't want to take that kind of liability sometimes. Jake does not have any solid contracts or recurring revenue. He just has equipment and past jobs. So this is a typical asset sale. So here's a simple breakdown. Share sale is usually based on income potential of the business, and sellers usually prefer it because they can get a better valuation when they do a share sale. Any profitable business has good value. The seller would insist on a share sale. Asset sale is usually based on asset owned in the business, and buyers usually prefer this option. In my experience, most of the profitable, well-run business usually sell for share sale. And the ones that may not be profitable, or if the owner wants to quickly unload, then it would likely be an asset sale. Now let's move on to other deal structures. Now we hear about the term called seller financing, which is also called VTB, vendor takeback. This is when seller agrees to finance part of the deal. So the buyer pays a portion upfront and the rest is actually financed by the seller, usually with an interest. Now you may ask, why do sellers agree to this? It's because it helps to get the deal done. Buyers may not have the full amount of cash, and the sellers might be able to negotiate a better offering price with a vendor takeback or seller financing. Here's an example. Now, let's say you own a HVAC company and you're selling your HVAC company for $500,000, but the buyer only qualifies for the financing of $400,000, and he's really interested in your business. So the buyer may ask you to finance remaining over a certain period, maybe 2 or 3 years, at a certain interest rate, let's say 5 or 7%. So if this is structured correctly, you walk away with cash and some passive income for the next few years. But there is a risk potential when it comes to seller financing or vendor takeback. And also, only do this if you trust the buyer and you structure the repayment in proper terms. Get it in writing, use a lawyer, and protect yourself. The next one is earnouts. An earnout is when a part of the payment is tied to a future performance of the business. So the seller might get $300,000 upfront and the remaining $200,000 if the revenue hits a certain number. This is usually a way to bridge the gap between what the seller wants and the buyer is willing to risk. It's great if the business is growing or has strong momentum, but it is definitely risky for the seller because you're relying on someone else to hit the target. They may not be able to run the business as well as you do. Chances are you have a lot of experience running your own company, so you'll be able to perform better than a new owner itself. Okay, so this is common in service-based industry or agencies where revenue is tied to client retention and performance. And the other one we see is a holdback or an escrow. Sometimes the buyer will say, hey, I'll pay you the full price, but I'm going to hold back 10 to 20% for 6 to 12 months. That sits in an escrow account with a lawyer or a third party and is only released if nothing goes wrong. This protects the buyer in case there are any surprises after closing. Like say, for example, undisclosed debt when it comes to a share sale, bad customer contracts, warranty issues, and a lot more other things. So the buyer uses that money in the escrow account as a backup. For example, if you sold a retail store and didn't disclose an expired vendor agreement that could cause issue for the buyer later on, the buyer might use that escrow money to cover the losses. From the seller's view, you want to keep that holdback small and clearly defined on what conditions they can use that money from the escrow account. The fourth terminology in the deal that we use is clawback. This one is becoming more popular and it is kind of reverse of an earnout. If the buyer pays you based on expected performance, but the business underperforms, this might be clawback part of what they paid. So for example, the deal was based on the business continuing to do 1 million in sales. If it drops to 600,000, they might ask for a portion of that money back. As a seller, avoid this if you can. But if you agree to it, make sure the terms are super clear. What are you tracking? Over what timeline? How is it measured? What are the responsibilities of the buyer? Now, here's the truth. In most real-world deals, the structure is not as clean and simple. Many buyers use some sort of combination. A deal might be 70% upfront, 20% seller financed over 2 years, 10% holdback for 6 months. Possibly even an earnout if the business grows 15%. Here is an example. A client of mine sold their digital marketing company for $800,000. They got $500,000 upfront and $200,000 over 3 years through seller financing, and $100,000 earnout based on client retention because they had some big clients that was covering most of the portfolio. This is perfectly normal. The key is knowing how to mix these ingredients so the deal works on both sides. And that's where having a great M&A advisor and legal team becomes a game changer. To wrap this up, there's no perfect deal structure, but there is a structure that is perfect for your deal, depending on how much risk you want to take and how much your asking price is. Understand your options and learn the pros and cons, and work with people who have done this before, because a poorly structured deal can easily cost you 6 figures. And with a smart deal structure, you will protect your upside, reduce the risk, and create a win-win outcome. If you're a business owner looking to sell in the near future, I do have an exit readiness checklist available somewhere in the link below that could definitely help you to prepare your business for the sale. Depending on when you watch this video, I might have a pre-recorded webinar explaining how smart business owners are selling their business in 94 days without dealing with time wasters. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.